Hey everybody, Cannibal here. Today I'm going to go into a little bit of controversy. So we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the game, and I'm going to take you through why I think IGG board of directors and investors need to do something about the terrible state of the game and the terrible state of IGG management. So I'm going to make my case for it. I'm going to tell you that not everybody's going to feel the same way. So I'm a little joke there at the bottom. I don't really believe that. But listen, we can disagree about how badly managed the game is, or how good or bad things are. This is my opinion. I think the game has degraded significantly since the time I've been playing with it. I'm a very active player. I have spent countless hours and a lot of money in the game, and I think I'm entitled to this opinion, and I'm going to take you through it. So let's get going. So I think IGG has needlessly ruined Lords Mobile. They've been slowly and gradually ruining it for years now, but it's gotten to a point where it is just nearly unplayable. And it's just lost a lot of the allure that it once had, a lot of the fun that I used to get out of it. They've driven that out for a lot of different reasons. They didn't have to, and that's one of the points of this video. Is I say needlessly because their mismanagement has got us to this place. It didn't need to come to this. They didn't need to ruin the game so much. They've just done very silly things along the way that has made the game just not a good environment. So here's the top reasons why I think Lords Mobile is failing. The biggest reason, and the thing that could correct a lot of problems, is if IGG actually listened to its players, its community, to the people that are trying to give constructive feedback, if they actually listened to them and then did something about it. But they don't listen. The community has told them all of the things that are wrong with the game for years now, and they don't do anything about it. So either they're hearing but not deciding not to do anything about it, or they're just not listening at all, or there's a disconnect between the people that are charged with listening and the decision makers who will actually do something about it. So in either case, IGG is just not doing anything about the constructive feedback that the community has been giving for a long time now. We know this about IGG. We know that IGG is in the business of making money. All businesses need to make money. I'm certainly not going to say that they shouldn't. But what I will say is that their events, their collaborations, the features that they build are all short-term cash money grabs, probably to satisfy the investors and the investment community, rather than what they should be doing, which is making the game better and making the gameplay better for the long-term health of the company and of the game. So they're prioritizing, in my opinion, short-term cash grab for quality of game overall. And the quality of the game has degraded over time as a result of that. And the product management needs to be called out here. There are so many events and features and aspects of the game that you just can't explain how they could come up with these things if they play the game themselves. They just any product manager worth their weight in salt should understand that these things that they've built just are unplayable. The prime example is Expedition. It's just a terrible event. and yet they're not doing anything about it and not listening to people. I've already gone over that in other videos, so you can go back and you can look at that. Other people have had similar videos about their events. But the other thing that they've done is not only are these just badly designed events, not very innovative, not worthy of gameplay, but they've filled the calendar with them. And what they've done is they've got one event after another after another after another. Now, if you are a low spend or a mid spend player, you feel compelled to be in every event because you want those prizes so that you can build out your account. So it's really hard to say no to all of these events that are going on, because you know that you're not going to be able to keep up and remain competitive if you don't. So filling the calendar with these events, they know that they've got you in there, that they've got you, and you can't break out of that cycle easily. And so not only are you needing to be in these events, but these events are terrible. So you end up just feeling bad that you're spending your time in these events. And then the last thing, the last big reason, these are sort of uber reasons. There's a lot of little things we could talk about. We could get into the weeds in all of these things. In this video, I'm not really going to do that. The other thing that I think is a real problem here is the management is not taking care of the game, and there's a lot of questionable practices going on around the game, around it and in it, that the management is either just turning a blind eye to, or they're involved in. And I'd like to know which. I think the investors should know which. And I think we should make sure that somebody is held accountable for either turning a blind eye, being incompetent, or actually being involved in some of this behavior. So I don't need to tell you that the game is suffering. All you have to do is look at some of the most popular content creators who have had a lot of success and on YouTube to know that this game is really suffering. Worthy Prince, 85,000 subscribers. He's retired his main Lords Mobile account. Sneaky Tashi left a while ago, 64,000 subscribers. Brando, one of the premier free-to-play players, just got bored and tired of the game. Avatrex, I think he basically is retired and is doing the occasional thing, because I think he may still have some contract hours from IGG. So, but this just tells you when you get some of the most popular content creators in the game leaving the game, what's going on? Why isn't that alarm bells for IGG? Why aren't they doing something about it? So they don't listen. There's no formal community or product advisory board. I've advocated for this in the past. They should get these people. They should have brought these content creators into the fold years ago and gave them a way to provide feedback. They have their own communities of players who give them a lot of feedback, and they could be the conduit to a lot of good ideas. I've seen personally on these YouTube channels amazing ideas coming from the viewers in the comments and in the videos themselves. It's crazy that this isn't formalized and that IGG isn't making an effort to take that feedback into the product development. It's really just it's amazing. And as I say, there's a lot of feedback that has come through on these channels, and yet none of it seems to stick. So in IGG, they on occasion they do the occasional, hey, give us feedback here or there. I recently saw one of their Google forms that they put together, and I can tell you that it is just half-hearted. They're asking for feedback, and when they ask the questions that they ask about how you like this or how you like that, all leads you down a path to for them to not get anything more than just superficial feedback. They're not asking for anything that would actually mean a bigger change than some cosmetic lifts here and there. It just doesn't make it doesn't make the game better. So they have an agenda when they're asking for this feedback, and the agenda is to save face and look good. Somebody along the line is prioritizing looking good to their management over actually making the game better. But all you have to do is look at the videos that are getting posted on there. A lot of content creators have had a great time making, including myself, making videos about the gameplay and enjoying our time with our friends on the game and all of that. And you can see now that mood has really changed, and a lot of people have expressed that in their content, and yet we're still not seeing much movement. So let's talk about some of the cash that's so they've priced a lot of these events and features uh, to make this game just really hard for free to play or for low spend players, and it makes it. I think it's important to realize this is one of the most, if not the most expensive game on the market. It's common for rally leaders, at least, which is a large percentage of the game, to be spending tens of thousands of dollars on their account. They're buying they're it's the price of a car or a house in some cases. Some of these accounts. This is how much money they're spending. So if you bought a car, an expensive car, you'd expect a level of service from that manufacturer that you just don't get from IGG. And one of the biggest problems is the gaps between the spending levels. It just makes the gameplay really difficult. When you have players that are obviously where money is no object, and they are literally spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on their account, and they are competing directly and intentionally with players that haven't spent that and won't spend that. That's a that's just pay to win. That's where the term comes in, and that's just not a good recipe for if you want to build a product that has a thriving community over time. Yeah, you can grab some cash, which is what they're doing, but you're going to make a lot more over time if you can build a community that will be competitive across the board, and you can have a way for all the players in the community to be competitive at some level. One of the biggest problems in the game is that there's no kind of handicapping system. There's no tiers of competitiveness. So and this is probably the most true in War of Wonders, where mercenaries just come into your kingdom, and they're max accounts, sometimes sponsored accounts. We'll talk about that here in a minute, and they just beat up on whoever's in that kingdom. They can do that because there's no limits to what is possible for the biggest players to compete against the smallest players, and the game is geared in a way that these sort of confrontations are possible. So it's kind of like you've sold you've sold a car to one of these, and literally that's how much money some of these people are spending. You sold a car to somebody, and then you sold a car with a special bumper to the next guy. That is able to just it's made of titanium, and then you say to that guy, hey, just go around and smash up all your all your neighbors, and we'll make money off of that too. So they need to think hard about how can they make the game more fair on the competitive angles. How do they, you got a whole there's a whole event, Chaos Arena, which could benefit from players of all levels being able to participate in these fort battles that go on in Chaos Arena. It's one of the biggest parts of that event, and yet most people cannot participate in that part of the event. So a whole area of one of the biggest events in the game, this event lasts a whole week, and yet there's a massive part of the community that can never participate in that part of the event. Does that make sense? I think people they need to be thinking about this. So these events, I mean, that just goes to this point. The events are and collaborations are just poorly designed. Who's putting the thought into this? They need to be thinking about competitiveness of the players in all these designs, and they need to be thinking about there's all of these collaborations that are just constant reskins, and there's no innovation going on any of these collaborations. They're just essentially, you know, it's sort of an equivalent of a different kind of ad unit basically, and these collaborators are buying into this ad unit, and then the users are given something of very little value because it's the same mechanics as the last collaboration, and it's boring, but yet you feel like you've got to do it, because if you fall behind and you don't get that new castle skin or whatever, then you might not remain competitive, so you feel compelled to do it. And the sponsored accounts. So IGG is known to put in sponsored accounts into the game, and these sponsored accounts are just so imagine that you not only you sold somebody a car, but now you've given a free car. Maybe you've given a tank to some of the people in the neighborhood, and you say, hey, go drive your tank over the cars of all the people that we sold cars to last week. That's what these sponsored accounts are, right? They're basically just max accounts that go around and bash the people that actually spend real money on the game. It's neither fair nor good for the game. So and just the fact that there's no counterbalance between these levels of competitiveness just makes that worse. So let's talk about some of the issues with product management. They've been sabotaging the game. They're by not listening to the community, not updating the previous features, by introducing aspects of the game that make no sense, that diminish the gameplay. They're just taking what was and could be a very successful product and just sabotaging it. Some of these designs just make no sense at all. I mean, again, going back to both, so Chaos Arena, it makes no sense that most of the players can't really participate in those Wonder Wars, in those fort battles, and it makes no sense that in Expedition that you can get all of your points at the beginning, and there's nothing bringing you back to playing the rest of the event until you get to the very end and just try to rush to hold some forts. It's a terrible game design. It's not exciting. It makes you not want to play it, and yet to get again to get the prizes and all that sort of stuff, you get people feeling compelled to do it. So yeah, I'm going to just keep going back to this fair play, this competitiveness. There's no focus on making the gameplay a fairer, more competitive landscape. That's got to be the number one thing to keep your community engaged. If you want people to come back and play, they need to feel like they got a fair shot at enjoying the experience. And when the war activities are just dominated by a few people, and a lot of them the ones that you're just giving free accounts to, then people just don't want to play anymore. And there's been no innovation around making the gameplay itself better. There's the war mechanics for Lords Mobile has always been the strongest part of the game, and people like the strategy part of this game, and understanding the statistics and how they can put together different different aspects of their account, the troop compositions and the gear and the strategies to get a competitive to get more competitive against their rivals. But none of that's all been there since the beginning, and it's not really been improved upon or innovated on for years and years, and it's a shame, because that's the sort of thing that if some good thought was put behind it, you could increasingly improve that sort of gameplay and get more people excited about it. Look, now I'm going to talk about IGG management and why I've hit a dead end here. I feel like as a community, we've given a lot of constructive feedback. We've told them, look, we love the game. We've spent countless hours on the game and a lot of money, and if that doesn't show our loyalty and love of the game, I don't know what does. However, the management of this, I can only assume that the management just doesn't care, and I think that's something has to be done about that, because we're all giving constructive feedback. A lot of people are leaving, and yet there's no accountability at the top. So I'm asking the board of directors at this point and the investors of IGG to step in and do something about this, or at least ask the right questions. Here's some of the questionable practices that I think the management of IGG is just taking a blind eye to. So they're not protecting their game. So war bots, right? We've talked about bots for a long time, and it's gotten to the point where they are so prevalent that players feel compelled to use them now, because they cannot be competitive. So you've got this third-party ecosystem that is cheating in the game, but this ecosystem is so strong that the players, that it becomes an extension of the game, that the players feel that they have to actually use it, otherwise the game's no fun anymore, because everybody's using it. So we've talked about this before, and there's been a lot of constructive thoughts around how to improve that and fix it. But the fact that this has been going on for years and IGG has done nothing about it means that they either agree with it, are powerless to do anything about it, or getting money from it. So which is it? So the seeding of the game with these sponsored accounts, as I mentioned, I think that's just it is in the absence of the fair competitive environment. This is just terrible because you're just having sponsored accounts fighting other sponsored accounts at the highest level, and or you're having your free accounts fighting people that have spent tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars on your game at another level. So that makes no sense, and the fact that you hide that they are sponsored makes it even worse. So I think there should be some accountability here. If you're going to be sponsoring these accounts, we should know who they are, and the players should know who they are, and the accounts should be flagged in some way so that they can just avoid them, because the players should not be forced to play against the house if they don't want to, but they don't know that they are. And then also a lot of the content creators have been sponsored and given freebies under the guidance that you can do that as long as you make the game sound like it's okay to be a low spend player. You'll still be okay in the game, and we just know that that's not the case. To be truly competitive in the game, low spend players don't have a chance, and it's disingenuous for the content creators to portray otherwise, and so the IGG management pushing that narrative, I think is very questionable. So let's talk about the bots. So in every kingdom that you go to, you're going to see things like this. These are full guilds, full of farm bots that are living in the game. So I think you got to ask, well, do you guys know about that there are so many farm bots? Obviously they do. Now I don't have as much of a problem with the farm bots. In a small scale, having a few having farm bots, because they do more than that. They do they make the quality of life for the guilds a little bit easier with some of their features and all of that. So I don't have as much of a problem with that. But what does this say about the state of the game when there are a very large percentage of the population of players are actually non-human? And is IGG being upfront with their investors and the rest of their community about what percentage of the actual players in the game are actually human versus just a bunch of farm bots? I don't think they are. And I think we need to know the answer to that. So here's the questions I think they should be asking. If you're an IGG investor or board of director, I think you need to ask these questions. What percentage of the active daily users are non-human? What percentage? Is it 20%? Is it 30%? Maybe it's more. In some kingdoms I've looked at when we go to do our analysis when we're going to migrate somewhere, it looks to me like 30-40% of some of these kingdoms are just all bots. So I think people should know the answer to how many really active users are there in the game, and what percentage are just farming to produce resources to sell to other players. I think we need to know whether the new kingdoms, I think you as an IGG investor should know whether these new kingdoms are being artificially inflated with these bots. these new kingdoms get opened up, and there's a lot of accounts being put into these kingdoms. But when you look at those accounts, and when you look at those new kingdoms, it smells very fishy. It looks like it's just the fertile ground for new bunch of bots to be created in those new kingdoms, and I think you should know that. I think the other thing that as an investor you should get your head around is whether or not these events that IGG and collaborations that IGG keep putting in place in the game, whether or not they, under some circumstances and jurisdictions in the world, could be considered gambling, because they require no skill. You're putting money in and just getting rewards out. I think it is they are mindless, essentially pulling the handle of a slot machine. Now, in some places in the world, that's perfectly fine. It makes sense. But I wonder whether there's a material risk there in other parts of the world where gambling is actually online gambling is actually regulated, and whether or not that could be a real risk to the company. Also, by IGG not enforcing their terms of service, by not getting rid of bots, war bots that are monitoring the shield activity of the players and creating unfair advantage to people using these war bots, by not enforcing their terms of service, is there a risk that government regulators in various countries could have a look at those practices? Because if you're not going to enforce your terms of service, then that representation to the government agencies that regulate you, it could be scrutinized. So yeah, I mean, a lot of these events are just money grabs. They require no skill. They're just spin the wheel or pull the lever or whatever. And I think need to think about whether or not those are actually going to be problematic. Here's some other questions that they need to be asked. With these guys spending tens of thousands, as I mentioned, a lot of accounts spending tens of thousands of dollars on these accounts. So it's like they bought a car. Remember, a lot of players have spent the equivalent of a car. Could you be opening yourself up to a class action lawsuit because of IGG's mismanagement of the game? So it's like it's like your car manufacturer is suddenly repairing it's making bad parts and taking no responsibility for it. It's just in the real world, this would be a real problem. But is this it's not like people are just spending a few dollars here or there. We're talking about people who have put a lot of money into the game, and the company has not lived up to its responsibilities to maintain the quality of the game that these people have spent that money on. I think the investors should start getting some statistics from the company about how the activity numbers have changed since the mana release. This recent release is everybody has seen it as a money grab, has caused a lot of problems in the game in terms of competitiveness or a note that they're going to have to spend a lot more money again to remain on that treadmill of competitiveness, and it's turned off a lot of players, and they're either becoming a lot less active, or quitting the game altogether. And I think the investors should understand the impact of that release on the game, and the quality of the community, and whether or not they're losing, in particular, high spenders because of the greed involved in that release. And why is there such a spike and then a drop off in these accounts? So this goes back to the question of, are these new kingdoms being seeded with a bunch of bots? Because look, there's a website that monitors all the kingdoms around lordsmobile, and it's called lordsmobile cartograph. Here's the kingdoms at the end there. They got 30,000, 20,000, 30,000 accounts in there, but look how they drop off. It goes from that to like 10% of that in a very short order. So these accounts being put in here to make them look good, or are these accounts? Are these a lot of bots going in here and starting their life in these new kingdoms, and IGG is just kind of looking the other way when that happens? Either scenario is bad, but I think it's a question that has to be asked. So the conclusion I've come to with all of this, I think that IGG knows enough about what's going on in their game, and they are just unwilling to do things about it, and they're killing their community as a result, and therefore killing the game, which is still their biggest revenue game. So I think I'm appealing to the IGG investors and the board of directors to demand the immediate resignation of the senior management at IGG. There needs to be accountability for this mismanagement of the game, and they need to clean house, reorganize, get the game back on track. Hopefully, it's not too late, but it's degraded every day that this goes on. It's degrading more and more. Doesn't need to be that way. This can be a flagship game for IGG, and treated as such, could be something that a lot of people take enjoyment out of, and build a community around, and enjoy, like World of Warcraft or Call of Duty or any of those kind of games. And yet they seem to be happy for it to slowly die. And I think as an investor and as a board of directors, you need to stop that bleeding. And so you need to take some action. So save the game, save the company, and save your investment. If you're an IGG investor, your investment is at risk if you do not do something about this. And I think you need to consider that. For the player community listening to this still, I hope you see that I feel your pain. I hope you agree with a lot of things that I'm talking about here. If you do, IGG has a complaints email. I don't know where it goes or if anybody does anything about it, but spread the video. Get people to like and share the video, and let's get some groundswell around getting IGG to do something about this, and getting their investors to do something about this. Here's the IGG Investor Relations webpage. So there's more email addresses there, and you can always put in your complaints as well. Until then, I'm not going to be as active I'm going to scale back my activity. I've found that there's a level of burnout from all of these terrible events, and the calendar being full of them, and and constantly running into sponsored accounts or terrible gameplay that has been designed into some of these events. I'm kind of I'm kind of fed up with it. So I'm going to still play because I do enjoy some aspects of the game. I still love my guild and the community of players that I play with, and I want to still enjoy that aspect of the game. But I'm not going to be as active as I have been in the past until IGG starts making this game better. So that's it for me. A little bit of a downer, I guess, a little bit of controversy. I think it had to be said. I needed to get it off my chest. I've been thinking about it for a while, and I hope you get some value out of my rant and and all that. But otherwise, carry on, and thank you for watching.